I caught a tremendous fish and held him beside the boat, half out of water with my hook fast in a corner of his mouth. He didn't fight. He hadn't fought at all. He hung a grunting weight, battered and vulnerable and homely. Here and there his brown skin hung in strips like ancient wallpaper, and its pattern of darker brown was like wallpaper, shapes like full-blown roses stained and lost through the age. He was speckled with barnacles, fine rosettes of lime, and infested with tiny white sea lice, and underneath 2 or 3 rags of green weed hung down, while his gills were breathing in the terrible oxygen, the frightening gills, fresh and crisp with blood, that can cut so badly. I thought of the coarse white flesh packed in like feathers, the big bones and the little bones, and the dramatic reds and blacks of his shiny entrails, and the pink swim bladder like a big peony. I looked into his eyes, which were far larger than mine, but shallower and yellowed, the irises backed and packed with tarnished tinfoil seen through the lenses of old scratched instant glasses. They shifted a little, but not to return my stare. It was more like the tipping of an object toward the light. I admired his sullen face, the mechanism of his jaw, and then I saw that from his lower lip, if you could call it a lip, grim, wet, and weapon-like, hung 5 old pieces of fish line, or 4 in a wire leader, with the swivel still attached, with all their 5 big hooks grown firmly in his mouth. A green line, frayed at the end where he broke it, 2 heavier lines, and a fine black thread, still crimped from the strain and snap, when it broke and he got away. Like metals with their ribbons, frayed and wavering, a 5-haired beard of wisdom, trailing from his aching jaw. I stared, and victory filled up the little rented boat from the pool of bilge where oil had spread a rainbow around the rusted engine to the bailer rusted orange, the sun-cracked thwarts, the oarlocks on their strings, the gunnels, until everything was rainbow, 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 and I let the fish go.
So now for the analysis of the fish, we are using soapstone. We're first going to talk about the speaker, who the readers can infer that it's a fisher by the first line when it says, "I caught a tremendous fish." The gender is not identified in this poem, and we circled all the first-person pronouns, which show that it is his or her point of view, and it's a narrative.
Alright, so for the occasion, we know that the poem was written in the 20th century. This story was taking place on a little rented boat, as shown right here, and it was on a body of salt water. We know this because of barnacles and sea lice.
So for the audience, it seems like the speaker is telling a story to an intended audience, possibly symbolizing his life. He or she uses the word you, which kind of shows an outside source. So we can infer that he's talking to maybe one person about this event.
So the purpose behind the text is the message that the speaker is trying to convey. This is a journey. He caught a fish, he overcame opposition, he fought through the struggle and through the hardships in order to get his prize, which in the end was a fish. This gave him immense pride, and at the end he ended up letting the fish go, letting his prized possession go, which just shows a full circle. So if you love something, you have to let it go.
So for the subject of this poem, the speaker caught a fish, which is openly stated in the first line. The speaker goes into great detail about this fish and uses many words that show color and also descriptive words such as terrible oxygen and frightening gills to really paint an image in the reader's minds. Here she realizes how tough this fish is and almost forms respect for it.
Alright, so now regarding tone, the author uses very descriptive and vivid words such as battered and venerable and homely. This represents that the tones paint a picture, and it uses a lot of imagery just to fulfill the narrative of the story, to describe what was going on and what the fisherman was going through and thinking about and seeing.
So the poem kind of starts out with the speaker being sympathetic for the fish when it doesn't fight at all. And then later on in the poem, the speaker uses words such as weapon-like and a wire leader and 5 big hooks to represent that the fish is kind of starting to put up a fight and getting some courage, I guess. And then the speaker says or describes like metals with their ribbons, which kind of represents a glory and pride and accomplishment. So the speaker says that he or she felt victory fill up the little rented boat,
Also, there's an oil spill, and it left rainbows, and it left a rainbow, 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 which shows repetition, and it shows that biblically it represents a new hope of a new future. And then in the end, the fisherman lets the fish go.